10 crimes that were committed over food. Welcome back to Creepshow, where we dive into the darkest and most bizarre true crime stories. Today, we're taking a chilling look at 10 cases where food led to murder and mayhem, from mayonnaise meltdowns to frozen fry fiascos. These stories prove that sometimes our love for food can turn deadly. Grab your snacks, but be warned, these tales might just ruin your appetite. Let's get started. In many of the most joyous occasions and events, food is typically the focal point of the celebration. Throughout the course of many people's lives, food plays an extremely significant role in a variety of occasions, including weddings, birthday parties, Christmas holidays, and parties. However, despite the fact that food is a beautiful thing, there are not many people who would go to the extent of committing murder or any other crime because of it. The concept of killing someone over a condiment is, to the vast majority of people, the epitome of insanity. However, the following list contains 10 instances of fights and confrontations that occurred over food and resulted in disastrous outcomes. Number 10. Hold the Mayo. It was the evening of June 27, 2022, when Melvin Williams entered a Subway restaurant in Atlanta with the intention of placing an order for a sandwich. It was then that Williams started complaining that the sandwich he had ordered contained an excessive amount of mayonnaise. Due to the fact that bullets were fired, the police were dispatched to the location shortly after 6:30 o'clock in the evening. The first link. The mayonnaise that was on the sandwich had caused him to become so enraged that a conflict ensued, and he ended up shooting 2 of the people working at the restaurant. However, regrettably, the other woman was confirmed dead later in the hospital. Only one of the workers managed to survive the incident. Thereafter, Williams was taken into custody and charged with aggravated assault with a dangerous weapon, murder, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. These charges were brought against Williams. Number 9. Gotta have more sauce. During the evening of April 2022, Ziwen Yan rode his scooter away from the restaurant in Queens where he worked as a delivery driver. Nevertheless, he had no idea that a furious customer was watching him from a long distance. The patron, Glenn Hirsch, had even carried out a campaign of fear and harassment against the employees of the restaurant for a period of 1 month during the month of November in the previous academic year. He claimed that he did not receive sufficient duck sauce with his food order, and he sought a refund for this reason. However, the restaurant refused to take the order back because of concerns regarding the presence of the coronavirus. In the weeks that followed this incident, Hirsch vented his rage on the employees of the restaurant by, among other things, cutting the tire of one of the employees' cars and turning up to the establishment with a loaded firearm. Hirsch made his way to the restaurant on the evening of April 30th and drove by it 7 times before he finally saw Yan leave to carry out his deliveries. Hirsch followed Yan as he delivered a meal order and then continued to pursue him before accidentally shooting the delivery man who was unaware of what was happening. Despite being taken to Elmhurst Hospital Center, Yan was pronounced dead shortly after arriving there. Hirsch was taken into custody and charged with murder and criminal possession of a firearm. Nevertheless, he was granted bail and committed to home confinement after being released from jail. Hirsch, on the other hand, was discovered dead in his flat in Queens, just a short period after he was released on bond. He had committed himself by shooting himself in the head. He was found with gunshot wounds to the head, and he wrote a note in which he asserted his innocence. Number 8. A frozen French fry murder. It is common for couples who have been together for a significant amount of time to occasionally argue over trivial matters. An altercation that took place on May 23, 2021, at Yvonne McCann's residence in Manchester, England, regarding a bag of frozen French fries resulted in a tragic event for Yvonne McCann, who was 46 years old and a mother of 4 children. Following an argument between Yvonne and her husband, Thomas McCann, who was 49 years old at the time, Yvonne was killed by strangulation. The argument was about a bag of frozen fries that had been left out of the freezer. Following the act of strangling her, McCann proceeded to dismember the body and dispose of it in a park in the vicinity. He went so far as to respond to text messages sent by their children on his wife's mobile phone, pretending to be her, and informing them that she had been arguing with their father, and that she had left the room. However, some dog walkers discovered pieces of Yvonne's remains in a county park while they were in the park. Following the discovery of 2 bags, the police were contacted, and then 4 other bags were discovered in a different part of the park. In the year 2013, McCann made the discovery that his wife had begun a romantic engagement with another individual. Clearly, this caused her husband to feel jealous, and as a result, their relationship deteriorated, which ultimately led to the tragic death of Yvonne. It seems as though the fight about frozen fries was the catalyst that caused McCann to spiral out of control entirely. It was decided that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars, with a minimum of 13 years and 4 months before becoming eligible for parole. There will be a minimum of 12 years of incarceration for McCann. Number 7. It's the Mayo again. During the month of December, in the year 2020, Christopher Erlbacher was out drinking at a pub in the town of Moorhead, Iowa. He was accompanied by his friend Cam Solberg and a third individual who was identified as Sean Johnson. Over the other hand, Solberg became enraged when Erlbacher poured mayonnaise over his food, which led to a brawl breaking out between the two of them. Following the conclusion of the altercation, Erlbacher and Johnson made their way to Dave's old home, a coffee shop that was located around 10 minutes away from the tavern. In the course of this 10-minute ride, Erlbacher made a phone call to Solberg's half-brother, Craig Pryor, and threatened to shoot Solberg. Pryor drove to the cafe, where the men were getting ready to engage in yet another altercation with one another. After that, Erlbacher went outside and drove his vehicle into Pryor's, also hitting Solberg, who sustained injuries but did not die as a result of the collision. On the other hand, rather than just leaving, Erlbacher drove down the street, turned the truck around, and drove at Solberg this time, causing him to be struck and killed. Subsequently, he started driving away, but shortly after that, his vehicle broke down. After making a call to his father for assistance, the latter drove Erlbacher back to the location of the crime, where he was consequently taken into custody. In the end, Erlbacher was found guilty and given a sentence of life in prison. Number 6, and cold fries on the side. The most that a person would typically do in the event that they were served cold French fries is to lodge a complaint with the establishment. Nevertheless, on a particular evening in August 2022, Michael Morgan, who was 20 years old at the time, went too far when the French fries that his mother had ordered were given to her cold. The occurrence took place at a McDonald's restaurant located in Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is located in Brooklyn, New York. According to official accounts, Morgan's mother was on the premises of the restaurant when she began to express her dissatisfaction with the temperature of her French fries. The mother and the victim, a 23-year-old employee named Matthew Webb, got into a heated disagreement, which escalated to the point that the mother ended up phoning her son, Michael Morgan. By the time Morgan got at the restaurant to confront the employee, he had already shot the victim outside of the establishment. The charges of attempted murder and criminal possession of a firearm were brought against Morgan after he was taken into custody. A few days later, Matthew tragically passed away as a result of his injuries. Number 5. Size does matter. Because of the size of her sandwich, a patron at a Subway shop in Rochester, Minnesota became so enraged that she made the decision to scare the staff members working at the facility. As soon as Vanessa Z. Wright saw the size of the sandwich that she had ordered, she threw a fit. Following the escalation of this temper tantrum, a verbal disagreement ensued, which eventually escalated into a physical altercation and threats of violence. During the time that she was expressing her dissatisfaction with her sandwich, Wright threatened to have her boyfriend visit the restaurant and shoot up the establishment. After that, she made fun of the employee who had served her, implying that he would be brutally murdered because of the sandwich. Not only that, but she also struck another worker with a gift card holder. The employees of the restaurant gave her the order to leave, and they were successful in removing her from the establishment. At a later time, however, she made another attempt to enter the building while accompanied by her boyfriend. It was then that Wright started to terrorize the employees, even going so far as to punch the proprietor of the location. Her criminal charges included 3 misdemeanors, 2 assault counts, felony terroristic threats, and 1 burglary charge. She was also charged with 1 burglary. If Wright is found guilty of the felony charge, she may be sentenced to 5 years in jail and might also be subject to a fine of $10,000. Number 4. I'm starting to feel sorry for the Condiments. Although it would be deemed rude to throw food at someone, there are not many individuals who would reply by shooting that person. On the other hand, Shatiasha Hicks, who is 30 years old, did just that when she was thrown mayonnaise by someone. In the month of March in the year 2022, the assault took place at a Burger King restaurant located on Northwest 167th Street in Miami. An employee of Burger King named Hicks was observed engaging in a verbal altercation with a customer while they were in their vehicle at the drive-thru. Following that, the individual who was in the car drove away into the parking lot. On the other hand, Hicks made the decision to go to her vehicle, get a gun, and fire 5 shots at the vehicle of the individual as they sped out from the parking lot. Following that, Hicks jumped into her vehicle and drove away as well. Despite the fact that the police discovered her car abandoned, they were able to locate her by utilizing the address that was recorded onto the vehicle. The 5 gunshot casings were recovered from the parking lot where the event took place, and they discovered a gun on the floor of the vehicle where it had been left sitting. Hicks is facing a charge of illegally discharging a handgun. Sadly, there is no information available regarding the customer's condition. Number 3. You can't make me. Parents may experience a great deal of frustration when their children refuse to consume their assigned meals. However, evil actor Jessica Dalgleish, who was 3 years old at the time, refused to eat her lunch on a certain day. Paul Marsh, who was from Kent, England, inflicted terrible and disastrous injuries on her. Marsh became enraged when Jessica refused to consume her lunch, and as a means of expressing his frustration, he hurled the young girl violently back against a solid surface. Marsh attempted to cover up his attack by claiming that she had fallen down the stairs instead of seeking medical attention for her head injury. She had apparently hit her head before. On Christmas Eve in 2019, Jessica sadly died away while she was a patient in the hospital. In addition to being found guilty of manslaughter and child cruelty, Marsh was given a total term of 11 years in jail for his crimes. Number 2. You're doing it wrong. At a deli in Bedford, New York in the year 2021, a woman was dissatisfied with the manner in which her sandwich was being cooked. Therefore, she made the decision to express her emotions in a fierce manner. Lynette Howard, who was 26 years old at the time, stepped behind the counter, picked up a knife, and started threatening the employee with it once she was there. Immediately following the altercation, Howard threw the knife to the ground and exited the store. Howard was taken into custody the following year and charged with menacing as well as criminal possession of a weapon following his detention. After that, she was allowed to go free on her own recognizance. 1. A BBQ Standoff. As a result of a disagreement over grilled chicken, Devious Weathers, who was 29 years old at the time, shot and murdered Ronnie Charles Ray, who was 31 years old, during a cookout that took place at a house on Pearson Street in Detroit. In August of 2022, the assault took place at approximately 9:30 p.m. on a particular night. It was the next day when investigators were able to locate Weathers at a residence located on Hayden Street. According to the Office of the Prosecutor in Wayne County, the police attempted to seize Weathers as he was backing out of his driveway. However, he managed to flee the scene prior to their arrival. After that, he found his way back to Pearson Street and barricaded himself inside of another house. Furthermore, he was in possession of a young girl, about 2 years old, who had been abducted and was thought to be his daughter. Weathers emerged from the house while holding the young girl in front of him after a standoff that lasted for a total of 5 hours. The charges against Weathers include first-degree murder, felony possession of a firearm, carrying a hidden weapon, fleeing and eluding in the third degree, and fleeing and eluding in the third degree. It was scheduled for him to return to court on September 8, 2022, for a hearing to determine whether or not there was probable cause. He was remanded to the Wayne County Jail. Thanks for tuning into Creepshow. If you found these stories as unbelievable as we did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you heard of any other bizarre food-related crimes? Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the most ordinary things can hide the darkest secrets. Until next time.